Bum 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 bum, ba da dum 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 dum. Oh, it's so dumb, dude. Yo, live. Hello. Hi. I'd like to formally apologize. There's apparently my, memories of celery, sure. I'd like to formally apologize because, apparently my game was leaking into the next game, the previous game. So, yeah, if you heard any piano music from this game's title screen playing during Undertale, that was me, but I did not know that. So, it's just kind of funny how it ended up working out more than anything. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's, this was leaking into the ending of the Undertale run. I apologize, I think the restreamer didn't have something muted, and I didn't catch the ping that said, "Oh God, it's coming from me." But thank you all for honestly, it's fine. Alrighty, welcome, welcome. This is East. This is pronounced East, like the word east with no T. There is a billion pronunciations for the YS. Ease is acceptable. Is, I've heard yes, I've heard wise, I've heard wees. I've heard pretty much everything under the sun. It is is, or isu in Japan. This game in particular, Memories of Celceta, is canonically a remake of the 4th installment of the series. Basically, they made 2 games back in the 90s, and then, like, they didn't actually make... The official company who develops this game, Falcom, didn't make those. And so they kind of reimagined this entire game. So there's some areas of the story that are kind of old school. A lot of the music in this game is remixed from the old stuff, but it genuinely sounds great. So thank you all for donating to do this run on normal. East games are a bit notorious for being on the harder side, and normal actually makes a pretty big difference in difficulty and decent change in the route. So again, thanks all for donating for that. It adds 10 minutes to the estimate. So are we good to start, Worm Talon? No, this runs on kind of its own Vitas era engine, and it's also I think it's its own engine. It's in the gameplay style like E7, which is a party-driven action RPG, not too unlike something like Kingdom Hearts or Tales of.
Worm is saying he's ready when you are.
Okay. I'll begin the run here in just a second, so I'll give the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. So, again, welcome to East Memories of Celceta. If you're wondering why the game has the word memories in it, and Celceta is the region that we are located in, and memories are something that are kind of an intrinsic part of the story, because our main character, Adol, who's sort of the series hero, prior to the beginning of this game, he lost all of his memories. So part of this whole game story is getting all those back. But the brave hero that he is, even though he barely still remembers his name and none of the faces around him, he still decides that he's going to go help these poor souls trapped in the local mine in the town that he kind of just wandered into, barely escaping from death. So yeah, as Esperanth is bringing up, this is the PC version, actually, of this game. It was originally on the PS Vita, and one of the neat little features it added on this version is a turbo fast-forward for cutscenes that make them play at about 5 times the speed. So that right there is actually just a full heal / warp monument, because I get the ability to warp later. So, basic combat tutorial, you have an attack button, and then skills that you can bind to the 4 face buttons. And this is pretty bad enemy movement here. So you also see I have a second party member. This is a friend of ours that we forgot about by the name of Durin. He's not very good, but there's a few things that he's useful for. Right here, he has the weakness of these rock enemies because he hits with physical. Adol has slash, etc. There's sort of a weapon triangle in this game. It doesn't really end up coming up that much in the run itself. So the strat here is to keep this guy from burrowing underground, so long as I focus on him. And skills can be activated. You see this little sundial on the bottom right. It fills up with blue. Every 10th mark is 10%. Certain skills have... Oh, shoot. I did not mean to burn this right now. This is a finisher skill. Well, I wanted that for the next boss, so I'm going to waste time here. I just accidentally pressed my right trigger. Well, nice. Yes, he's basically Budgie Dogi, a series staple character who's not in this game. So right here I'm actually loading up a memory, because loading up memories in my menu resets the game to a default state. And in doing that, it sets my characters to a sort of default position, and in that case, it's slightly behind my main character, or whoever I'm controlling, so they end up on the other side of that gate. So right here, I'm going to grab this, yeah, more rolling than Dark Souls and Limp Bizkit combined. It is the fastest form of movement. So here you see every time the little thing on the bottom right fills up, I can use a skill, and it takes about... This one takes about 10 SP, as denoted on the thing. So the basics of combat in this game, you have your attack, your skills, and then you can also guard. This game implements a perfect guard feature as well, which, if you do a perfect guard, what happens is you take no damage, and you have a couple of seconds of mini crits where you do an increased about 20% damage. This guy gets stunned after a while, so that's when I want to do the most damage. And, yeah, he's dead.
So, the perfect guard, is it just use the guard at the right timing, or is it actually a completely separate button, like, say, a parry in a Street Fighter game?
It was actually a completely separate combination of buttons in previous games, and this one, the guard button, also does perfect guards, if you time it right. I want to say it's like 8-ish frames before the command comes in play, but I've never actually looked at the frame data myself. It's comfortable enough that if you practice it, you get the hang of it. And yes, so dodge rolling is going to be the fastest form of movement for about 2/3 of this game. So we saved the miners, and the Governor General of this town, which is on the outskirts of the country of Celceta, which is where the game's name comes from, decides to give us a job to map the entire region for... and of course, she pays us every time you come by her and you've mapped a certain percentage. She gives you a lot of money. This isn't useful in the route, but it used to be in the old days. This is just a tutorial around for the resources around town. There's like a little smithing place, and there's also a like crafting system, which we're never going to do because it's too slow. You'll also notice that I'll be rolling as Durin, but not using him for anything else, and the reason is because he's not good at damaging, but he has the fastest base roll speed of any of the 6 playable characters in this game. Yeah, the cutscenes go really fast. There are dialogue choices in this game. Adol has historically been a silent protagonist. The dialogue choices don't mean anything, except for a few instances where you have to select specific options. So we're on our way to map the country of Celceta, and Durin decides that he's going to pick out a couple of landmarks. Durin is sort of like this information collector that we don't know a whole lot about, especially given that Adol lost his memories beforehand, but he's a friendly guy, so that's why he's in our party. He tells us that we should head out for 2 big sites, one being the river on the western end of the map, and one being the giant tree in the center. We're going to head to the giant tree first. And the reason we're heading there first is that scenario is faster. You can go to do either scenario in either order, and there's basically a new character you get and a dungeon for each. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet if you compare this to Sonic. This game will literally become Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, wow. How do I keep activating my left trigger? That's the second time I've done this, and I've never done this. Sure, let's just... I actually have not seen that attack very often. I don't use Durin very often. Okay.
So right now it's Ocarina of Time. It'll turn into Sonic later.
Oh, yeah, oh yes.
Well, casual Ocarina of Time, I suppose.
Okay, so we're on our way down to the tree, and you might have seen before I fought the first boss that I opened a treasure chest containing an item called the Rotodroplet. The Rotodroplet is functionally like a Phoenix Down in this game, although the, oh, I might be dropping frames. Yeah, the Rotodroplet is sort of like a Phoenix Down in that it revives you. This is actually extremely important, not for like safety purposes, but because of a glitch that I will be demonstrating here shortly. Avoiding that relic because we don't ever have to warp there, and wastes time when I do get to warping. By the way, I can warp between matching colored monuments. So right now I'm going to deliberately have Adol die. And as soon as Adol dies, I'm going to switch over to Durin, switch Adol to party lead, and Adol's going to fall through the floor because he was just killed in water and then respawned on land. Which is kind of essentially a quirk of this game, way this game handles spawning characters. And what I'm doing here is I'm swimming across to this bridge where I'm not supposed to get to for a while, and then kind of doing some under-the-floor shenanigans. I saved here because if I hit the above-ground inbounds, it's basically run over. Okay, so memories, and that's going to load the characters to default position, and then Durin is going to be on solid ground. So I'm not supposed to actually be able to skip over to this bridge yet. And this allows me to kind of enter the next town from a shortcut that's supposed to open up later, which means I'm doing things in reverse. I do not want to die here. Oh god. That's fine. Okay, well, backup strats.
Oh boy.
As you can see, when a character is paralyzed, they kind of freak out sometimes. Okay, paralysis is done. Alright, Adol's back. Yeah, so we fell through the floor and then skipped across a river that we're not supposed to skip across. Normal game mechanic stuff. So this town is sort of the trigger for the beginning of the giant tree scenario, or the Gidona crater scenario as it's called in-game. As soon as we enter this town, Adol gets arrested because the last time he was here, because he's actually been here before and forgot about it, you know, amnesia, strange things started happening. And so he gets arrested, breaks free, and then finds a memory orb at the top of the town, where he recalls the first time he came here and interacted with the townsfolk and the village chief. And kind of became friends with the village chief's kids, the orange-haired girl and boy that are following me. So he now remembers what all basically happened. He's not at fault for any of this, and because he broke free from being arrested, he explains himself that, you know, I have nothing to do with this. Basically, some strange figures have been seen around the village, and it turns out it's actually the villagers who are going missing and then being possessed by these dark masks. They come in and they nearly kill the village chief, so we need to get some information on where the heck they're hiding. So once we talk to those two, the village chief's daughter decides to join us because she kind of can't stay around and do nothing, and she is naturally has a lot of combat expertise. So we're heading down Gidona Crater, and big benefit to this third character, her name is Karna. Apart from the fact that she has throwing knives, which a ranged weapon in a normally melee-driven game being really useful, is she's level 11, whereas my other characters are level 3. God, all the comparisons to Sonic are just funny to me, because I know something most of you don't.
I know this as well, and I'm just waiting.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're just rolling down to the entrance of the next dungeon. Ghoul, if you have any donations to read, go right ahead.
Just keep going. Right now, we are still sitting in the same spot we were.
Okay, that's kind of late. I can imagine we got caught up pretty quickly on Undertale.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Real quick, thanks everyone for getting this to over 3,000 already, and you know, hopefully we can get that goal met. Like
our original goal was 3,000, and we are currently at $3,559 and $59.99. We're 1 penny off of the flat 3,600.
Alrighty, so coming up here is the entrance to the next dungeon. I'm going to very quickly switch over to Karna, who's level 11, and then bind her homing knife skill, which is sort of her bread and butter skill that I'm going to be using a lot, to a button that I'm more comfortable with. And I actually burned my last skill earlier, so this is going to be quite a long fight here. My allies do pretty much nothing, and I'm just kind of trying to build up EX meter here. Oopsies. This is going to take a while. I was hoping I didn't have to burn my healing item here. I'm going to try and hold on to that. So as you can see, being able to kind of dance around and not get hit is really useful. Especially given she's the only character I have that can actually do any damage right now. Ordinarily I would immediately use my finisher, but since I blew that earlier and didn't have enough chance to restore it, I kind of just have to play this little game of cat and mouse. I'd like to kill one of them. I kind of can't get too close to any of them, and their behavior's a little erratic. Okay, so I got one of them. Okay, one of them's got stuns, which is really good because it takes more damage. Okay, that's good. Okay, I really do not want to get hit again, but I can kind of follow his movements a little well. Okay, that was way slower than it had to be, but that was my mistake. Oh wait, no, I fully healed. What am I doing? I forgot you fully heal after you exit a fight like that. Okay, so one thing I haven't touched on is overworld actions because I've skipped all the tutorials for these.
Leave it to me.
Karna's overworld action is she can sever suspended cables. Everyone has their own. Durin can unlock locked chests, which I would need to do, but there's a trick that allows me to circumvent this entire dungeon. And then Adol can view memories and then later on kill ancient beasts, but we're not going to do any of that for many reasons.
Weirdly, the viewing memories is actually really useful.
It's funny, actually. So, like, that's just a little cutscene viewer that the game gives you. And, like, getting memories is pretty paltry because, like, they give you very minor stat bonuses every time you get a new one, as well as a little bit of lore, some of which actually expands on Adol's character in a way no other game in this series really does. Viewing the cutscene viewer is the fastest way to set characters to a default position, which is incredibly useful for major glitches.
Was that the case for the Vita version as well? Or?
Yes. The only thing that the PC version changed as far as glitches do is they allow for two things, which are simul flash and chain flash in guarding. Simul flash, this game also has a flash dodge. If you perfectly dodge an enemy attack, you will get a couple of seconds of like bullet time where you move faster and have a faster attack rate.
So it's basically witch time in Bayonetta.
Yeah, like bullet time. I thought that was the term for it. It's basically witch time.
Bullet time also makes sense, yeah. I'm just thinking of another game with a similar mechanic.
Yeah. And then, in this version you can actually guard and then dodge really quickly. So this is sort of the mid-boss here, and we're going to demonstrate the other thing that you can do, which is chain flash guarding. So I just flash guarded an attack 8 times, an attack that normally knocks me in the air a little bit. By guarding over and over again, it sort of stores the height gain on that, and then I gain so much height that I actually shoot to the vertical ceiling of the room, and can bypass the rather large boundary set on the boss arena. So I don't actually have to fight this boss. And in fact, he's better alive than dead, as I'll demonstrate much later in the run. I didn't get the guards there. Well, she didn't quite land inbounds where I needed her to, so she was going to hit the kill plane on the side, because you are technically going out of bounds. That attack is really gnarly because the goo hits me with a status effect called Heavy, which makes me not able to gain as much height as much as I need to. I didn't get enough guards there. This is rather unpredictable, and this bee is kind of the killer of runs of this game. Okay. Well, he hit the kill plane and died. And this bee is not cooperating. Come on, bee. So, the thing that's really, really awkward about this trick is if you're in the boss's face, it doesn't work. If you're against a wall, it doesn't work. And yeah, so this means that your positioning has to be really precise. Oh, I died. That's fine. I can retry at the start of the fight, and maybe this will even be easier this time. Just gonna check that I have the dwarf bracelet. Yes, I do.
So the game looking like it's slowing down, is that just the slowdown from the bullet time aspect, or is that actually the game lagging?
That's a feature of me chaining together flash guards.
Okay.
This wasn't originally in the Vita version. This is something that they added later because people were complaining that flash guards were unreliable, so they just kind of took the nuclear option on the PC version instead of like setting it to the proper kind of delay that the Vita version had. Okay, buddy, you're starting to tick me off here. There we go, that should be enough. There we go. Alrighty, so I actually need him alive. Like, it would have been faster, like, in a perfect world to kill him, but I need him alive. And the reason for that will become apparent much later in the run. Okay, I miscounted there. I need this gem out of this treasure chest. I was going to get this earlier, but I had to play a little safe. So, we are done with the tree. Now, the game would lock us into a scenario where we have to finish the, like, final boss of the dungeon, but... Whoops. I need this as well. It would lock me into this, and so if I try and leave here, I'm going to get a little text box that says, but wait, you haven't finished the tree. We need to finish the tree and find out what happened to Karna's brother. Of course, this game being as broken as it is, we don't have to do that, and I will demonstrate here shortly. So we're going to use a dwarf bracelet that we pick up. This is a necessary item to beat the game, but since I'm trying to death abuse anyway, if I get tiny and then I get attacked by an enemy, my defense is basically reduced to 0, and I can die extremely quickly, which is beneficial when you're actually trying to have one of your characters die. So I'm going to save here just in case. Party, I'm going to switch him to active again, and then revive him, which will spawn him under the floor. And then I'm going to swim to the out-of-bounds portion on the left here. This is one of the only instances where out-of-bounds areas are loaded, and I need to kind of get a precise angle here. Let's see. If you fall out of bounds and there's no water underneath you, you will hit a kill plane and die. The only exception being this particular space right here, which I guess they intended to do something with, but never did. Well, what this rolling up this hill does is it lets me hit this loading zone from behind, and there's no cutscene trigger that says you can't proceed until you finish the tree dungeon on the backside. So we just kind of circumvented this game's sort of barriers to sequence breaking, basically. So we just sequence broke the game. This area here is kind of a Lost Woods type deal. If you're not always going downhill, then you will just loop back to the first screen. I have the layout already memorized. So yeah, we're basically done with the tree scenario. We skipped doing the boss. We never found out what happened to her brother. We'll find out more about that later. And by that I mean barely. So onwards to the next big story scenario of the game, and this is going to be a very short one. Again, if there's any donations, go right ahead. Or just any plugs.
We are basically the same spot again, so...
Alright, so the story here is, once again, strange things happen after Adol last left this, this village, so we need to figure out what happened. Basically, Adol became friends with this, blonde-haired, dark-skinned gentleman by the name of Ozma, who is the village chief of this, village. Kind of the young village leader, and this village leader protects these sacred beasts called the Spartas, which are these half-dinosaur, half-ostrich-looking things that have really cute babies. And their natural habitat has been threatened, and nobody knows why. And the river around them, from the mouth of the river, poison has been leaking into the river. So they think Adol might be responsible because it happened right after he left. But Adol, being the nice guy that he is, the village leader says, "Alright, I don't think it's you, but I want you to help figure out who is behind this." So, once again, we have to talk to a bunch of people around town to get information. I already have the group memorized, so it's not really a problem for me. Instinctively, you talk to everybody. Basically, now we have to piece together all the information and figure out what the heck happened. So, it turns out that the sacred beasts, the Spartas, are the reason for the river being poisoned. Their den is just upstream from this river. And so this means that their habitat is being disturbed, and we need to figure out who's disturbing it in the first place. So naturally what we're going to do is say, we're speedrunners, we don't care, we need to go fast. So instead of heading south where the game wants me to, we're going to head north, because after we complete these two scenarios, we head back to the first town of the game, do some stuff, and then decide that we're going to try and look for an area called the Primeval Lands. And the path to the Primeval Lands is located just north of this village we were just at. And as you can see, there's a lot of water here, which means we can sequence break. And the trick where I kill off a character can also be replicated by switching that character out of my party lead position and then swooping them back in, meaning that I can get through the floor just by swapping them out when they're in water and then swapping them back in when they're on land. So I look at the mini-map on the top right to judge my position, swim out of bounds, fall, and then I rise back upwards, and I land behind this cave, which the loading zone to this dungeon, which is the fourth dungeon of the game, just so happens to be active at all times, which is kind of the nice thing that allows these sequence breaks to happen, is that these loading zones are generally always there. So we're never going to actually go and solve this guy's issue. We're just going to beat the video game. Unfortunately, in that dungeon is the thing that allows us to dive underwater, so we need to use the respawn despawn glitch. We don't really have a good name for it. One of the people who helped find it calls it the spelunking glitch. Shoutouts to TuxDev. So this is me getting out of bounds here is just to circumvent a soft lock because I can't dive underwater. Also, if you haven't noticed, I don't know how good it's coming through on my end, but the soundtrack in this game is really freaking cool. And this is one of my favorite themes, so I'm just going to kind of shut up and let the music play. So right here is where I have to use the dwarf bracelet to proceed. Yeah, these soundtracks in general are amazing. They have a dedicated music team that composes most of their music. And
it's true of most Falcom games in general. For those that don't know, the developer of Ys, along with the other major series, is the Trails series. It's developed by a developer named Falcom, who's been around for a very long time.
So real quick, I actually just performed another glitch there. So these areas have these tiny little enemies that I'm supposed to fight while small. So they don't have a lot of HP, but I don't deal a lot of damage when small. But by using the memory trick there, I can actually reactivate the dwarf bracelet to get large while having a character set just under the loading zone anyways, which means that I can actually get into this little hole here while at regular size, which means these enemies die in one hit, and they're worth a lot of experience. But yeah, the Trails series, the Xanadu series, Falcom has a few franchises, and they all have really good music.
So these give so much experience just because it would take like a pretty long time to kill when you're small, or is it mostly a catch-up experience because you're significantly underleveled at this point in the game?
Little of column A, little of column B. This game does have a scaling EXP system, so the lower level you are, the more experience you get. What? Oh, she was stuck behind there that entire time. I can't believe... Normally my characters kind of just zoom right back to me. That was very bizarre. I've never seen that. So right now my characters are pretty heavily under-equipped to handle anything. My weapons are from, like, defaults. So I need to open up this treasure chest, which is Durin's unique action. And inside is basically an up-to-date weapon for Adol, which will allow me to take care of the next boss. Considerably more ease than otherwise. Head over here to make a detour to grab this ruby, which is going to be worth a lot of money when I sell it later. And then we're going to go fight the next boss, which, thanks to a quirk in this game's mechanics, actually will happen immediately. Okay, I think we're good on stuff here. So, when I escaped from the B fight, I never actually exited a boss fight, which means that the next time I get to a boss fight, it immediately will force itself to occur the second I enter the room. There's kind of a quirk in the game's sequencing. Anyways, this fight here I need to take care of his legs before I attack the core, which is where I'll really start to do damage. And this is where simul-flashing comes into play. So I do a flash guard, a flash dodge, and then that gives me the mini crits, but also the bullet time, which time would you ever want to call it. Gets me a little bit of that so that I can extend this guy's phase where I can damage him.
Do the mini crits apply on your finishers as well?
Yes, as long as I activate the finisher quick enough. Okay, I want to make sure I don't die here. Okay, I didn't have to worry about it there. This fight can kill me due to no fault of my own, so it's kind of the worst fight in the game, and the longest taking, or longest lasting. So I want to get flash guards here to get both restored SP and mini crits here. It's just really useful. Alright, so now I'm going to heal, so that Adol can survive one more hit. right there I just did a regular flash guard, because some of the quirks with this fight only happen if you both flash guard and flash dodge at the same time. And so now he's on his final phase where he hardly ever lets me damage him, which means that I'm going to switch over to Karna, who doesn't have great damage right now, but can actually hit him in the air. Switch over to Adol because he does do a little bit better damage when I know I can hit the boss. Come on, boss.
I take it the boss facing the wall like that is really unlucky.
Yes, it's not fun to deal with. This game is really fun. Mechanically, it's really interesting. It's very skill-based. It does have one little drawback that I think Ys 8 corrected. But like, if you've never played an Ys game, this is a great one to start on. It might not make as much sense like in the universe of the game, but the games are generally pretty self-contained, so you can catch up pretty easily. Alrighty. So another nice little side benefit of skipping into that dungeon without having done all the stuff before it is cutscenes that are scripted to play when I enter here do not happen. So we see a cutscene where Adol finds his own grave, and the reason that he sees this is in the town that we're headed to on this hill. Adol has again visited here before and forgot about it because he had his memories wiped. The villagers who live in this town found his belongings and presumed that he was dead, so they buried his belongings sort of as like an honor, like a tribute to him. And there's a whole like 8-minute long sequence where you have to like figure out what's going on and, you know, get permission, well, not even get permission, like finally sneak out to the back so that we can actually go to the tower on the top of this hill, which is where we need to go. So we're gonna sell stuff here. This shopkeep is the only NPC I can interact with. Any other NPCs, the game doesn't let me. Because we sequence broke the heck out of this game, so I'm gonna go try and talk to this dog. Oh, wait. Dogs are considered different. I forgot about that. You. Talk to me. Nope. So I'm actually locked out from entering this back loading zone and heading to this tower on the top of the hill. Basically, the villagers forbid anyone from going past here, and I have to go through a lengthy cutscene. But because we skipped everything before it, the triggers that prevent me from getting here are not loaded yet. Because everything in this game kind of happens sequentially. And if you break the sequence, everything that happens later in the sequence doesn't. However, there is an exception that writes the course, which we'll be coming up on here shortly, and that happens to actually be memories. So any cutscene that initiates a memory, or anytime I get a forced memory orb, it sets the game back to the right story state, which means that I can proceed with the game itself just fine.
Leave it to me.
So, obviously we have no way to deal with lightning, but one of the villagers, who's a good friend of the god, spoiler warning, who cares, who lives on the top of this hill, she followed us here, and she actually happens to have the key to the lightning rods here. There's obviously a whole lot more to it, but I'm explaining basically 10 minutes worth of cutscenes in about 30 seconds, so cut me some slack. So, we can head to the top of the tower here. Oh my god, all the Sonic the Hedgehog parallels. Oh boy, you guys have about 10 minutes left to go, and then this game will become Sonic the Hedgehog. Alrighty, so I actually was listening for that lightning bolt strike there, and then hit this loading zone, because the safe zone, which is noted by a purple circle on the minimap, extends just far enough that if I time my rolls carefully, I can skip lighting the third lightning rod on that screen, which also, by proxy, skips activating the first one on this screen. Yes, she is wielding a hammer. It's more like a mace, but like It's more like a blunt weapon, but one of her skills is called Gigant Hammer. So it's basically a hammer. So we roll up to this ledge here, and that's close enough to the dungeon where the game stops striking us with lightning. She's not a princess, actually. She's just more of a friend of the town maiden, who is a good... And they're both good friends with the god who lives on this tower, who's sort of the god who oversees this region. We see him in a lot of cutscenes that I kind of skip, but basically he's a very important character in the story of this game. And we're not going to see very much of him. Just know that he is the one responsible for Adol's memory loss, because he has a dark side, and the dark side nearly killed Adol. FF10 lightning dodging game, yeah, nothing quite that bad. It's actually pretty easy. So here is another instance of when using memories is useful, because this actually sets the enemies to a default state, which means for a few frames after I exit out that menu, I can activate that switch. Unique overworld actions do not activate if you are aggroed onto an enemy. Let's not get into that, Hellkith. The internet's been on fire enough about that lately.
Gosh.
Alrighty. There's a whole bunch of places here you can really explore. There's some really useful items and the like, but I kind of only get the bare essentials in the run because you don't really need much more than that.
So at the beginning, we donated to get this to be on normal difficulty. So how much of the routing changes based on the difficulties, whether it's easy, normal, hard, or the final one is Nightmare, I believe?
I've never really done normal or Nightmare or hard with this route, mostly because things just take too long, and I find that to be not very fun. Like, the fastest way to handle things is to use Simulflash, and Simulflash leads to inconsistent damage mitigation. So, a couple other things that do happen. The grind before the previous boss doesn't happen. I'm actually about to grab a piece of armor for safety here, because there's an enemy fight that's coming up that I would face tank on easy difficulty, but that I just can't do on this difficulty. So there's a lot of little things that come about from running it on normal, in addition to actually, having to be better at the game mechanically in order to do well. I like running both on easy and normal. Easy's more of a, mechanical test, whereas normal is more of a, skill test, if that makes sense.
So easy's more focused on executing the route, the glitches, first try, while normal comes down to a bit more combat skill, basically,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, so we got another skip coming up here. So there's a loading zone off to the left here, and I can actually delay the lightning by repeatedly saving my game and then doing a roll, save, and extend this for considerable length. What happened there? I feel like I lost control of my controller there for a second. So I have to be really quick about this, and try and minimize the amount of times I get struck by lightning. And so this loading zone I'm not supposed to get to until after I clear this dungeon and the lightning goes away. But by save buffering like this, I throw the entire sequence of everything out of whack. This is useful for setting up a shortcut, but it's also useful for tricking the game, essentially. So in doing things this way, the game is set that the next time I die, I will, rather than warping back, or rather than getting the retry screen, I will instead exit the exit the fight. So I'm going to get into this boss fight here, but I'm not actually going to do the fight. Instead, I'm going to remove all my armor and then deliberately die again. You'll notice a recurring trend with that in this game. So we're going to equip the Dwarf Bracelet, and we're just going to let this guy kill me. What this is going to do is, the next time I get into any screen where there is a forced encounter like this, it'll automatically initiate, regardless of whether I'm at the state in the story where it should. And this is important because Highland Town happens to have one of these that initiates after I complete the next dungeon. So we're going to go ahead and equip these guys with my strongest stuff. Take you out of the party, and then Colonial is going to be the party lead here. That's the girl that I picked up. She has she has two really useful fights, and her main skill is a skill called Gravity Sphere, which pulls enemies in and does area of effect damage. I combine one of those with a finisher skill, and this does a lot of damage and allows me to hit a lot of these guys. Oh god, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to take this very slowly. Usually she doesn't die that fast. Yeah, so this sequence doesn't initiate until after I clear the Providence Tower, which is the dungeon I was just at. Oh god, I might actually die here. Might be faster to just retry, honestly. There we go. Alright, let's go. Let's try this again. Alrighty, so now Kalilika does the most DPS over an area of effect, so I want her to do a good chunk before I switch over to Karna and do the sort of like cat and mouse game yet again. This is the other reason we pick up the better knives for Karna and like actually go out of our way to grab items and then sell them and then buy her a weapon. On easy difficulty, those guys will die really quickly, but on normal difficulty, they have too much HP, and Kalilika dies really fast.
So Karna both is very safe because of the ranged attacks, I'm assuming, as well. That's another benefit to playing as her?
Yeah, that's her main benefit in this category. She's actually the main character in the old Route of the Vita version of this game, which was like 3 hours long. Oh, hey. So now I just learned a skill here, which actually refreshes my SP meter to full. I don't know why they programmed that in, but it's actually really nice. Okay. So in forcing this encounter, we force all the cutscenes that happen after it, which means that we have cleared the dungeon without actually beating the dungeon. A whole bunch of vibrating and not even hardly any text cutscenes. That's pretty much cutscenes in a nutshell here. So your allies learn skills all the time. I only use a very small number of them in the run, but a lot of them are really cool to like tinker with in a casual playthrough. So now Kalilika has joined us in the party permanently, and we've also gained an item called the Gold Wing, which lets me teleport anywhere, anytime. So we're going to go fight this boss again, but it's not because we have to fight it for story reasons, it's because the accessory he gives us is bonkers. Basically, what Esperath in chat there said. To get out of it as fast as possible. So strat here is I want to actually be behind these orbs. Got a well-timed flash guard there. This is only the first phase of this boss, but we're only going to do the first phase. So if we get behind this orb, it's it's like force pushing away from us, like only pushes us into the wall and we can keep damaging it. I wasn't able to keep behind it, but there we go. Alright, and that's pretty much it for Kalilika for the rest of the run. Okay, so remember when I said that this game becomes Sonic the Hedgehog? Well, I literally named the split where I grabbed this item Gotta Go Fast for a reason. Or Supersonic Racing, depending. Alright, so we're
Should've
gonna...
named Gale Shoes.
Yeah, so this is the Gale Shoes. And you run really, really fast. I picked that up just because it's a safety revival item. Alrighty, so I don't have to complete the rest of the dungeon, so we're just going to use this shortcut that I made earlier to proceed onwards.
For the first time I saw this run, I saw the Gale Shoes. It's like, wait, that seems like a glitch. It's like, no, that's intended.
Yeah, it was... As soon as I saw them, I'm like, I want to speedrun this game, just because it's fun. It's just fun running this fast. Like, it's comical and unnecessary, but it's so much dang fun in and of itself.
Deja vu.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs rolling around at the speed of sound. Okay.
Actually, running in the 90s probably works better than Deja Vu.
Yeah. Also, it's funny because Karna sometimes does a ninja run, and somebody pointed this out in my chat, and I never not notice it. So yeah, right there is the flashback in which Adol was struck down by the dark side of the god. And that's when he lost, most importantly in the story, he lost an item that he picked up along the way called the Mask of the Sun. And the Mask of the Sun is the dark, powerful MacGuffin that does dark, powerful, evil things. Because this game's story kind of is like based on a story of a game from the 90s, so it doesn't really have a great story. It's just like simple, keep the bad guys from getting this powerful thing. Setting this up to Warp 2 later. Alrighty, so now we're at the last... Now we're gonna get the last character in the game, who's our final, sword-type weapon user, slash-type weapon user. Her name is Frida. She's also my favorite character in this game, simply because she wields a halberd, which is one of my favorite types of weapons. And that's basically the only reason why. Of course, it's... I'm just trying to explain things for context here, like why I'm doing what I'm doing in the context of the game. Alrighty, so they have the... So the villagers here have the Mask of the Sun. And this is Lisa. She's the maiden of the god Eldiel. And she's not going to let us get this. So the character we just picked up, Frida, has some really useful skills. So we're going to be using her for this fight. So I'm going to immediately get a flash guard, use her strength buff skill that she comes with, and chunk this guy for a lot of his health. Darn it. I hate this fight. These games actually have really good lore and, like, world building, so, like, it is a plus to have. Okay, that was a solid Sol Galba fight. Alrighty. So, she happens to have a friend who is a giant dragon golem ancient beast thingy. And so, in desperation, she breaks the seal on the Mask of the Sun and says, I can't let anyone have this. And of course, the big bad of the game, who we've barely met so far, you know, because we skipped half the story of this game, swoops in and grabs it. So Lisa is kind of my least favorite character in this game, because she keeps doing really stupid things and never helps in any way. In fact, she actually helps more in the speedrun, for reasons that are kind of hilarious, if terrible. But alright, so now that whole scenario is gone, we have Frida as a permanent party member, and she can bypass the poison walls here, which she has a unique overworld action of sealing fissures in the ground, which you use all of twice in the speedrun. It's used a few more times in the story. But there's a lot of things in the story that they didn't account for that you can just kind of skip ever having to do on the PC version. Another thing I really like about Frida is I generally like how she plays. She's not like a fast damage dealer, but her skills are all really satisfying to use. Like, you shoot a giant wall of ice at an enemy, you spin around a bunch. She's the only character who has a strength buff, so that's always handy. While strength isn't as important a stat in this game as in other Ys games, any little bit does count. So again, I'm taking a detour just to go grab a warp monument that I can warp to later that I will come back to. BBEG, I assume that stands for Big Bad Evil Guy.
I assume so.
Alrighty. Honestly, I've heard a lot of comparisons of the Ys series to, like, Bravely Default's soundtrack, which is maybe a bit of an injustice because Bravely Default came out a lot later than Ys, but that game has a dope soundtrack, so it's still pretty good comparison. The music in this game has all sorts of vibes because this game, and pretty much every Falcom game, it's basically several composers with one lead director. Which, by the way, if you look up Falcom JDK on Spotify, YouTube, they post all of their music publicly, so you're free to listen to it whenever. Like, they're really cool about, public availability of their music, and it's great music. Like, every game in their series is like every series of games that they've composed for has like its own vibe to it. So there's a lot of variety.
Meanwhile, half of the other game soundtracks I want to listen to, I can't buy.
I know, right? Alright, so this is a puzzle that was on the Vita version, meant to be used by the touchscreen. Thankfully, on the PC version, you can just use the mouse, which makes this really easy.
This used to be really funny to watch with the... Because you used to run this on Vita TV, and you'd have to use, like, the simulated touchscreen, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest reason this game actually wasn't whitelisted on the Vita TV for so long. Like, you couldn't actually play this on a Vita TV. Because touchscreen features. Alrighty. So, everybody get out your OS frogs, or your frog emotes, because those sustained me during this fight. Because this fight's kind of terrible, but... Oh god, that's not what I wanted to happen. Thanks, Captain. So, strat with this guy is I want to actually hit him with Hurricane Spin, because it kind of locks him into a stun lock. What I also really want is for one of my allies to learn a skill, because that gets me an SP refresh, which means that I can kind of keep this combo looping for a while. Spin to win.
Going full Marvel vs. Capcom on this guy.
Yeah, you can unleash an infinite on him so long as you have the SP and you have the, and you don't get knocked down. Alright, so this is the Beast King's Claws. It would be a really useful item for movement. Unfortunately, we get it after the Gale Shoes, so it's already outdated, but it is needed to break these sort of rock formations. In this case, these, like, coral rock formations. So now I can proceed. If you're wondering... Well, first of all, if you're wondering why I'm, like, stopping my sprint here, it's because these weird sausage alien-looking thingies shout at me anytime I run by them, and if I'm too close to them, it'll stun me, which obviously is slow for movement. But if you're also wondering why I'm using Karna to move, she has the fastest overworld running speed of the game. She's about 10% faster than Adol, and then, like, a little bit more than anyone else. Okay, so I'm gonna put Gale Shoes again. So, next boss here. This guy's really easy to flash guard. So this fight's just a lot of fun, but he can do a lot of damage very quickly if you're not careful. Also, the problem with this guy is, apart from my AI being usually really stupid and not attacking him in this fight, sometimes I just will miss my strong skill, which is this ice pillar attack here called Cactus Drive.
It's like the opposite problem AI normally has.
So here's the funny thing too. The AI in this game are just kind of modestly supplemental in this game, because they only do about 40% damage of the player as the player lead. The benefit that they have is AI-controlled party members cannot die. If they're not under your control, they will only go down to 1 HP. However, if they are at 1 HP, they basically stop attacking things. Okay.
Interesting. So normally AI, when it bugs out, just decides it wants to give the bad guy a hug. Always fortunate.
Alright, so now I've done enough damage that I can finish him in mid-animation here with my finisher. I had to do this once. Leave it to me. The AI in this game are absolutely not a liability. If anything, they're just kind of there for you to like tag into at any point if you feel like you're struggling. Alrighty. Sorry, I had to make it annoying at least once. Okay, so the next place we're gonna head to is this place called Ancient Colonial Laboratory. Now, this next dungeon we're not supposed to be able to get into until we complete the next, in the story sequence anyways, next 2 dungeons. However, there's a bit of a quirk that allows us to get through it. And this is PC version exclusive. So right here I'm grabbing an item called the Power Ring. This is going to save a cycle on the next boss fight, which is incredibly important. And it's also going to make any other instances where I need to do damage just a little bit faster. Yeah, this music here is one of my favorite themes in the game. I could say that about like 80% of the soundtrack though, so I just love this game's soundtrack. Very rockin', very upbeat. Alrighty, so this guy can two-shot me. Ordinarily this is an ancient beast and I cannot kill these until I get a special item. But by guarding a whole bunch and then rolling, I can actually just shoot straight over the door. So again, you see a PC exclusive trick, implementation of the chain flash guarding to get enough height to just completely skip over this door.
I love the way that it gets angled too. It's like kind of like curl around towards it. Actually, I haven't seen that skip before.
Anyways, to elaborate on this dungeon, on this whole route of this game, this dungeon sucked so bad. And the biggest reason for it is, when you enter this dungeon, you see Lisa and her giant golem dragon thingy going berserk, and she wants you to escort him, or escort her to him at the end of the dungeon. Notice the word escort there. She follows you. She is very slow and does not sprint with you, and if you get too far ahead of her, the game says, wait, you got too far ahead of her, you need to go back to her. So this dungeon becomes very slow and aggravating. Because, yet again, we sequence broke and entered here before we were supposed to, the cutscenes that initiate this do not play. So, This dungeon is just really cathartic to run through because on the Vita version it is just slow, and here it's just a complete sprint to the end. We're picking up a really useful weapon there because we are woefully underleveled. We shouldn't be able to get to the end of this dungeon before like level 40 something, and we're currently at level 33 on Adol. But to mitigate this, we pick up a decently late game weapon. Darn it. It's not supposed to happen. Okay. Hey, Argic. Argic, a fellow East connoisseur.
So I'm guessing right there you're just locked out of going through the vent because you were in combat?
Yeah, any overworld actions, if enemies that are aggroed onto you are nearby, you cannot do it, which is really frustrating sometimes. Alrighty. So again, I'm going to have to shoot over another one of these enemies. This time there's enemies around him as well, and I really want him to do the laser attack. If he doesn't do the laser attack, this can take a while, but hopefully it's not too bad. Laser beam, please. Wasn't enough. I usually like to get one flash dodge in there as well. There we go. So that'll shoot me just over his door. And that bypasses another soft lock. Okay, so right now I'm going to make sure that Adol has the weapon that I just got equipped and the accessory equipped. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. There's supposed to be a boss fight here, but it doesn't load properly. So we need to force this boss fight, which means we need to go visit an old friend. And by that I mean the worst thing in this game. So my splits actually read not the bees times 2, and not the bees times 3. We're currently on not the bees times 3, because I hate the bees. Alrighty, he cooperated with me this time.
So could you one-shot him now if you wanted to?
No, but it wouldn't take much work to kill him, and I definitely don't want to kill him.
Right, I'm just curious like how the damage scales in this game.
I want to be really careful because that fireball attack can literally one-hit kill me right now. So I'm so underleveled that several of this guy's attacks can actually one-hit kill me if I'm not careful. So the strat here is I need to kill the feet, kill the hands, and then attack the head. And if I do it all perfectly, it should only take 3 cycles. Again, the attack combination, I don't think I actually ever explained the combo that you're supposed to do. It's attack, attack, skill, attack, attack, skill, in the case of Rising Slash, which is Adol's bread and butter skill. So right there is actually really nice. After each cycle, he does the stomp, which doesn't actually do damage, but you can still flash guard and flash dodge it for like mini crits. Okay. So now he's getting really annoying. And that actually does damage, which is bad because I don't want to die. Thankfully, we're at the final phase here. And down to the final cycle. I mean, if you guys want me to kill the bee, I can kill the bee. I'll take a quick vote in chat. I can kill the bee after the run. Alrighty, so inside of her sacred beast, and why he was following her in the first place, is the ghost of the ancient king, and the ghost of the ancient king repairs the Mask of the Moon, which we assembled off screen because we skipped those dungeons where we get it, and now we can enter the final dungeon. But we need to visit our old friend one more time. Stop it. Alrighty.
So, since you just nailed that, you have time for a quick donation?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
We have a $133.70 donation from Michael K. saying, "Can you speed up some more? You almost lapped Sonic."
Yo, thanks so much for your donation. The comment is great. Alrighty, so we can now enter the final dungeon, except this isn't supposed to be here. These enemies aren't supposed to actually load until I actually finish the final dungeon. But by triggering the bee encounter and then leaving it, the next, this is considered a forced encounter, which boss fights are also considered forced encounters. So exiting it makes the game force that encounter the minute you enter the final dungeon. So there is no final dungeon to be had at all. So, yeah, this whole part doesn't really make a lot of sense, but to kind of give us a very brief recap, we go to the final dungeon, purge the evil from the God Eldeal, and then fight the final boss, who is fused with basically the ancient logs of all the information of in world history. Something like that. I don't even remember anymore. It's been a while. And he tried to fuse his power with the Mask of the Sun, and we take care of that, but his phantom still lingers, so the only way to get rid of this is to get rid of the Mask of the Sun. So we're going to basically copy Lord of the Rings and chuck it into a volcano. But his phantom's here to stop us in a 1v1 fight. Except, so Lisa ordinarily isn't supposed to be here, but because we skipped the dungeon where she is, she kind of is forced on us right here for this fight. I think I also have Arc Blast, so this might make this a little or Fencer. This might make this a little faster. She also can't die, which is really nice, and she will heal us if we take too much damage. So this fight's kind of a joke, but it always was. So even though we're like 20 levels lower than the game would normally lead us to be at this point, it really doesn't matter because this fight's free.
Can you get one shot in this fight? Like, with her healing you, is it still possible to die? Like,
yes.
Careful at all? Or is
it is possible to die because she heals intermittently. It's very unlikely on this difficulty. Very easy to happen on Nightmare.
So essentially she's just like a very strong regen effect.
Oh, well, I got hit by his finisher. I was trying to flash guard it, but I missed it. And that attack basically single-handedly does 80% of my health if I get hit by it. Alright, so I got a guard, so I'm going to use my finisher. It's not going to kill, but it's going to do pretty chunky damage. My guarding is really bad right now. Oh god. So the worst part is Lisa can get hit by this attack, and even if I perfect guard it, it doesn't matter. Okay, I don't want to die, so... There we go. That was about the worst Phantom Groot I've done in a while, but whatever. I'm tired, it's like 4:30 in the morning. Okay, so we're gonna chuck the Mask into the Sun, or Mask of the Sun into the volcano. And time's coming up, and time. I forgot how fast these cutscenes go. Alrighty, so that is time. My timer says 1:12:05. Not bad at all. So, since people asked for this, we are going to murder that bee.
That's probably feel pretty cathartic to you.
Oh yeah. It's also a wasp, technically, so it's not even like a honeybee.
Oh
Just
yeah, wasps are jerks.
It's easier to it's easier to call a wasp a jerk. Yep.
Bees are bros. Wasps are jerks.
There we go. So, can I demonstrate something that'll just take like 2 minutes here? I want to demonstrate something really goofy on the PC version, actually.
See, 3 minutes underestimate.
They're getting ready for us. Okay, I'll just demonstrate something really cool here. This takes like 2 minutes. Alright, so we're going to load up my previous save data in a New Game Plus setting. So, New Game Plus is an option on the PC version because when you kill all the bosses in the game, you beat the story, you unlock Time Attack mode, which is a PC version exclusive thing that lets you fight bosses that you've already fought with a timer so that you can basically like, you know, compare how good you are at doing certain ILs to other people. Of course, this is as broken as anything else in the game on this version, which Xseed, the publisher, great publisher for this series, but not necessarily the best when it comes to programming. They missed this here.
Try this, no escape. Fools. Try this, no escape.
Alrighty, so you can escape from the final boss arena just like anything else. And the timer stops. It's going to restart when I enter the fight, but if you load up a memory, the game is set back to story mode. And I have the items that the game gives me for free in Boss Rush, and I'm level 55. Of course, Lisa's not here to help me, but...
Try this, no escape.
And he's dead.
So what's the lore of the New Game Plus run? You wake up, you're an amnesiac, and then you just...
You just remember when you fought the final boss, and then it turns out it actually happens. And then and then you beat the video game in like 2 minutes.
And that's how you got amnesia. Oh.
Sure. And so yeah, that's how you beat the video game. It's actually a pretty fun little thing to do on Nightmare from time to time. My PB on Nightmare is 1 minute and 43 seconds. Yep. So that was a New Game Plus speedrun of this game. It's really, really janky, but I think it's funny, personally. Alright, so that's East Memories of Celceta. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. It's a fun game. It's a fun community. Like, it's a very small community because only, like, 4 runners have really touched the game. Myself, Ravi, and then Ravi, like, is basically the forefather of this game, like, as a speedrun, the way it is on PC. And he's helped find a lot of things in the game. Shoutouts to other runners, Tatata and Hakuto. It's been 3 Japanese people and me for a while. I recently made a tutorial to like teach people how to run this game. I love this game. I love this run. I hope you all enjoyed. East community is great. We have our own Discord. We have, plenty of people willing to help you out if you're at all interested in any of these games. If you haven't, if you haven't seen any of this game before, there's like a ton of them on Steam. You can really start at just about any one of them, other than like East 2, which comes with East 1 anyways. And there's no real wrong start to the series. I just adore these games. So, yeah, definitely check those out. It's a series that definitely could use more love. But with that, I want to say the next run is Resident Evil 4 by JTB.
It's Resident Evil 4 by JTB. We're going to take the stream will be down for like 3 seconds because we need to swap restreamers so that Worm can get some sleep. And yeah, so don't go anywhere. Don't touch the browser. We'll be right back, everybody.